Everyone. We're just doing another video today on the absurdities of NASA and the Earth pictures from space. I'm not sure how many of you have actually done this study, but if you're like a lot of people, they started doing the search by looking, wait a minute, how many pictures, real photographs of the Earth do we actually have? And the reality is, we don't have a lot at all. I would say the majority of the pictures, minus maybe a few that we'll get into here in a bit. But really, this is the big thing. You start looking at all these so-called photographs or pictures from Earth, and it's just nonsense. It's all CGI, it's renderings, it's computer stitched together. I mean, look at this nonsense right there in the clouds. I mean, seriously. And then I remember this was circulating around like, wasn't that beautiful? Look at the satellite took this picture. And seriously, it's this cartoon land. If you really believe this, then you were really in trouble. But the reality is that when you actually start looking around on NASA, their actual website will state that these are not photographs, that these are renderings, that these are CGI, that these are, all these different things. But the reality is, and you can check for yourself, because a lot of people say, no, I mean, how do you know? I'm going to go check. Well, go check and see yourself, and you're going to find out that they actually admit that it has to be photoshopped. That you have people even from NASA that have come forward and saying this is exactly how we do it. We take the data, we stitch it together, we compile these images. Now, we've got inconsistencies with Earths all over the place. We've got the Earth morphing, changing. We've got Neil deGrasse Tyson saying it's a pear. Nobody even knows what shape it is anymore. But wait a minute, we have all these pictures. If you look at those pictures, they look pretty spherical, right? And this is the big debate, when it comes to flat Earth is really you believe you're on a flat Earth? Of course we're on a sphere. Look at all the pictures. But really come down to the pictures, look into it, you'll find out it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. You can just look over and over and over, and all these pictures, one by one, you'll start breaking them down. You'll find out they're nothing more than Hollywood science fiction. NASA is science fiction. All right. Remember that. So when you're watching Star Wars or Star Trek or any of your science fiction, understand that anytime you Google Earth from space, you're also seeing science fiction. It's not real. This doesn't exist. I know it's hard for a lot of people, but the reality is just that. So, anyways, I'm searching around for pictures from Earth from space. And actually, on a podcast the other night, they actually had brought out this video, which I thought was pretty funny, or actually the picture. But anyways, you start looking around, you got NASA, but then everyone says, well, what about the other space agencies? There's Russia and there's China, and and again, their footage is even more ridiculous. But again, let's get into one that I thought was actually pretty funny. But let's get into this one, not that one. Let's get into this one. And this was a picture, Russian satellite, 121 megapixel image of the Earth. It's the most detailed yet. And it says pictures from the Electro L #1 Russian weather satellite of Earth are the highest detail images yet and come in at 121 megapixels. The color scheme comes from the image capture method, which combines data from 3 visible and 1 infrared wavelengths of light when it takes full-size images of Earth every 30 minutes. Okay, so every 30 minutes they're taking a picture of the Earth. I guess the Russians, they've got it all, figured out. They've got everything going. And again, it comes down to this just nonsense of the Earth, right? There's been a long history of NASA providing blue marble images of Earth, but now we're getting a different perspective thanks to a photo taken by the Electro L #1 Russian weather satellite. And again, it goes on to basically say, unlike, NASA, this is even better. It's high resolution, and again, there's basically saying that the different color schemes in there, they're, orange, for a reason. But what was really, really funny is, everyone, is looking into these. It's photoshopped. We all know this, right? But the Russians are even worse than NASA. I mean, how is it that when you actually take this photo and you grab it, and you say, okay, here's the photo. This is from the Russian satellite. Uh-oh, we got a problem. What's this drag tool doing on there? There's a hand. So I'm not sure if you know, but in the middle of the ocean, somewhere on the earth, there's a big hand, and we haven't discovered this yet. But this hand, the Russians have detected. Again, this is a legitimate image from the satellite that actually takes pictures every 30 minutes. Only problem is when it takes pictures, it's got a handprint on it. That's right, everyone. A handprint. Look at that. And this is from the official article. Like, how ridiculous is this? And again, this is the whole thing. And I mean, this was brought up on a podcast the other night. I had to go searching for it. I went long and hard into the night trying to find where is this picture because again, it was just showing this picture. Anyways, I found out it was the Russians that took this picture, and it was this beautiful Earth shot, from their satellite way out in space. They call it, but only problem is we got a hand. Look at that, a hand. One, two, three, four. Look at this. Got a thumb and everything. It's the drag tool in Photoshop. I mean, why are they even in Photoshop? If this is taking, a picture, why are they going in and having to do anything with it? The reality is that all of this stuff is constructed in Photoshop. You have layers. You can open these things up in Photoshop. You can grab, layers. You can, do different masks. You can clearly see. And unfortunately, I mean, even the Russians, I mean, they're even lazy enough that they'll just actually take a screenshot of the actual Photoshop shot with the hand drag tool on it. So here's just another reason not to trust anything that you see. So-called images from space, from weather satellites. It's nonsense. Doesn't exist. Just like this weather, satellite that takes this picture of the Earth with a big hand on it. Look at that. Just a big hand. I'll just zoom right into that hand. Look at that. Is that ever silly? You know, this should be an embarrassment to the Russians, really, But again, NASA should be embarrassed as well too because we're uncovering all of their nonsense one by one. It's just all a facade. Start looking into it and ask yourself the question, it's 2017, we have all this technology. Why don't we have a real picture of the Earth from space? Why don't we have a spinning ball Earth, nice HD video footage from the moon. Something that we can all see. The ISS. Oh, we have the ISS though. We have it. I've seen it. Really, you've seen it. Are you a moron? You can't see anything 250 miles away, the size of a school bus. Stop your nonsense. You might see lights in the sky, and that's something that we can all maybe agree on. But stop saying that you can actually see an object when you can't even see a plane at 30,000 feet. Come on, use your head. But these are the arguments we hear all the time. And, the ships go over the horizon. Look at all the pictures from NASA and look at the ISS. You know, really, are you going to start your whole debate, your whole argument with these three? I mean, come on, it's really, really silly. It's time to wake up, start actually providing better photos. And Russia, seriously, if you're actually going to claim that you've got your own satellites, which satellites are nonsense, start looking at the satellites. We could do a whole video on satellites and show that there's nothing, you know, there's no real photos of satellites. It's all a big lie. And I know you're all looking at your phone right now. You're like, but GPS, what about GPS? Well, maybe that's another video, or maybe do a search and find out the answers to that. But for now, we're talking about the mockery, the fakery, the photoshoppery of the earth. And that's exactly what's going on. Case in point, Russia, they don't even bother. They'll just say, hey, let's just leave the hand tool, on the actual globe. No one's going to really notice it. No one's going to ever see it. Oh, we're not going to see it. Nah, no, nothing. No, it's fine. Let's just go with it. Not a big deal. There it is there, the Russian satellite. Not a big deal, right? But there we are. And you can just see that it's just nonsense. I can scroll around, I can go through all this kind of stuff, and then someone can grab it like this, The Verge, and run a big article on it, and away you go, right? There's been a long history of NASA, but look at this. Russia, it did a lot better, but only problem, we got a hand on there. Well, I got to hand it to them. They tried to fool the public, but it didn't go over well. Hey, man, expose the world's lies, celebrate truth. God bless.